KDE brings more bugs, a new version of Plasma, and Thunar has GTK 3'd all the things.
Gitlab talks scaling, and Devuin hits stable.
We're going to talk about using Linux to bypass Verizon limits for fun and profit, followed by Microsoft failing horribly at packaging things. But hey, it's another great day for Linux, everyone. So let's go. And welcome back to Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays, where I use my NPR voice for no reason. Yeah, it's kind of that thing. This is where we sit back, relax, and talk about things going on in Linux and open source. I'm Venn Stone, joined by Jill Bryan. And over there on the far right, you'd know him. That's Pedro Mateus.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's everybody doing, man?
Very good.
Right.
Very good.
Got anything exciting going on out in LA?
Yes. Well, Monday was our monthly community hack night meetup once again at Riot Games. And this last Monday, I taught my nephew Evan how to use Linux. That made me very happy, spreading the love of open source in my family. And I passed out lots more LGC flyers. So that's always a good thing.
LGC spams, I mean, cares. Pedro,
LGC
what's up,
cares.
man? How's Britannia?
Well, over here, I showed you last week, I was mostly done with the ThinkPad X240. If only the camera would focus. There we go. And, well, now I think I am done because I got the thin battery. So now it's a proper-looking Ultrabook with no battery sticking out. It's a bit smaller, obviously. But for the use it gets, usually this total of 48 watt-hours is more than enough. So, yeah, I'm happy with it now.
Nice. It looks beautiful, Pedro.
It does. I want to throw it into traffic. So over here, we've been doing a couple of things. This is, we tested Saturday. Just on kind of a laugh, I picked up a $60, well, it's like $69 USB 3 1080p 60 capture card that we're going to be working to stick together, hopefully a more stable system than we currently have, because Discord just kind of cut the audio quality down to, wow, that sounds like AM on a bad reception. So we've been playing with that. And last night, as part of the hardware stuff, we got to do some software stuff, is deploying our own Jitsi instances. And Jordan, you know him from Saturday, he got, we have one instance in Atlanta spooled up, and we got it mostly working last night. Of course, we went to test it today, and nothing was working right. So we're making progress. In our book, that does count as progress, but we're eventually going to get one deployed in Britannia. So everything's going to look way too professional for us. It's going to be confusing. People's like, this looks so good. How come the content's so bad? Anyway, let's get right into it with Pedro's favorite captor, Stockholm Syndrome. That's KDE, and part of that is Plasma 5.13, which is out.
Yes, it is. It's the new version of Plasma. It was announced yesterday, and it, they say they don't mention anything about fixing bugs and crashiness, but they do say that there's a new look for the lock and login screens, because, yeah, that was really necessary. They redesigned the system settings. They integrated the... like if you have a browser running and you're playing some media, now it shows up in the media player in the notification center. You can actually see, you actually get some pause buttons that work, and progress for downloads and whatnot that shows up there. So, you know, bringing everything into a consolidated space is a good idea. There's Discover, which is KDE's new... it's basically their attempt at a software center. It's horrible. I don't know why they would waste time with that. But
okay, seriously? KDE's doing a software? Why does everyone want to have their own software? Is that like just a natural progression of any distribution or desktop? And they're like, we need our own.
Yes, I honestly don't know. And Discover is horrible. If you've ever tried to use it, not just being slow, as most graphical interfaces for package managers tend to be.
Gnome, I'm having Gnome flashbacks of Gnome 3. Just that, even though I know this is KDE, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also integrated the GTK global menu. So if you like to have like the menu at the top along with your panel, so it doesn't take up window space, you can do that with GTK applications out of the box now. You don't need some random packages. So that's progress, I guess. But what I would really, really like to see is them fixing those stupid Kwin crashes. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, watch that stream, what I did yesterday for Doom the Roguelike, which even with that fixed camera angle 2D sprite game, it's bare bones as it is, and it was still crashing all over the place. Just please fix that. Please.
One of the things that kind of interested me was the preview of the GTK global menu. I was like, oh, what's that about? That sounds fancy. And I clicked on the link. All this will be in our show notes. If you're listening to this, just head over to linuxgamecast.com, and there'll be a link if you're watching it on YouTube for the 3 people who do that. But I went to the link and it's like, oh, that site's broken. It's like, man, come on. Is that how experimental this feature is? I say good on KDE. It's plugging along, and as somebody who is just diehard in the wool XFCE4 fan, it's nice to see you guys get new versions of stuff, I guess.
Well, you say that, but in our upcoming story, you'll get a chance to talk about it. Jill, do you run KDE at all?
Yes. Well, I haven't actually run KDE Plasma in quite some time because it was so buggy. And it always had issues with running 3 monitors. So that was a thing. So I never run it. But I actually have KDE Plasma Mobile installed on one of my Nexus phones, and it runs beautifully. It runs better than the Linux desktop version.
Oh, that's where the focus is. Okay,
yes.
All right.
I love Pedro. Pedro thinks that anything that's wrong is like they're clearly targeting mobile. That's what's. Hey, let's talk about something.
It validates my opinions.
It could be XFCE. We brought that up. Thunar, that's the file manager, if you know that. It's a pretty slick piece of kit. With this, they're moving everything over to GTK3. And you're like, hasn't that been the case for years? And I'm like, yes, it has. And trust me, you might want to put some money down in Space Vegas about whether or not they will get everything rolled out of the GTK3 before GTK4 comes out. And actually, because it becomes a thing, but they updated the menus, kind of. I mean, with, what is this, 1.8, you'll notice that you have a little set where you can dive in and pull back out, and you have a home, back, forward, up button, which is also present in older versions like 1.6. So it's good to see that's catching back up to parity. What do we got?
They, besides the redesigned pathbar, it's the full GTK3 support. And if you're using plugins for Thunar and you want to test out a new version, you're probably going to run into issues because the new API is GTK3 based, obviously.
Right, but a lot of stuff is. I mean, if you're going to be doing that, I mean, you need to, I think they make it a point, you make sure that you update all of your plugins, and you'll need to update XF Desktop.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's basically update everything around it so you get all the functionality back, as it were.
That is kind of my unicorn because, 4.13, I'm using 4.12. 4.13 of XFC is not an official release. It's something that you can build. There's been like 2 or 3 times where it's been an afternoon. I was like, this time I'm not going to stop until I get everything put in. It's like, I just tap out. I'm like, I can't do it, man. Come on, XFC. Remember back in like the early 2000s, they had a nice little GUI thing, which I don't need GUI. Just give me a script that would pull everything in order and build it in order. And it's always some random package that is an outdated version that I don't want to mess with. But I do like XFC, and it's good to see them making progress, and I hope to see 4.14 before the eventual heat death of the universe.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So, speaking of heat death of the universe, something that you may never have considered was something we talked about last week, which was Microsoft acquiring GitHub.
Nope.
And one of the bits...
It never happened, Pedro. That was fake news.
Yeah.
This is la, 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 la.
And one of the things that resulted from said acquisition was a ton of projects moving to GitLab. And Data Center Knowledge got in touch with the GitLab folks and said, okay, so give us a rundown. What did you run into? And well, it was a bad time for GitLab because they were right in the middle of moving. They were migrating from Azure, yes, irony, to Google Cloud. And it was like, okay, we're smack in the middle of the migration, and all of a sudden we have 15,000 new projects that want to be hosted by GitLab. Yeah, that will cause some issues, but thankfully, thanks in part to the systems that they had already migrated to Google Cloud services, that brought Kubernetes into the picture, which means scaling all of a sudden becomes much easier and much more well integrated because, hey, look, Google created Kubernetes specifically for scaling, and seeing that that jump in traffic and projects wanting to be hosted by them, I'm guessing that helped a lot with testing the Kubernetes scaling feature, and it's good to see that they managed to not only do it, but hold on. There was a teeny tiny little bit of downtime, as is to be expected, but they succeeded, and yeah, now they're up and running.
It's very impressive that in the middle of all that, they're like, we want more people, because we talked about last week, they're making the educational programs gratis. And they said, bring it. That's the equivalent of like letting Netflix's Chaos Monkey loose in your system. You're just having fun with it.
Yeah, what I was so impressed about this was, and I didn't really know, that GitLab is a remote only company. They don't have a physical business anywhere. It's all the office is powered by virtual machines, and it's amazing that you can do that today in today's day. And I just assumed that GitLab would have, had an office like GitHub does, but no, it's all done remote. It's amazing.
Like, genuinely puzzles me. I know Pedro and I have talked about this on our gaming show on Saturday. Is you remember when Humble was having some layoffs?
Yeah.
And why did they have that many employees? Why was it located in San Francisco? So it's good to see stuff like this. Having, as we do this show virtually, we don't have an office.
Yeah.
So, it's Venn's basement. Venn's basement is
literally my basement is our office. Good on GitLab. I think they're batting 1,000 right now, and
yes,
use what you want, because up next we got to mention it real quick. This is the Linux Foundation's reaction to Microsoft buying GitHub. Full disclosure, which I really should have been at the top, was Microsoft is one of their platinum sponsors. I'm not saying that tinted anything, but it doesn't, they're just like, everything's cool. I mean, I'm not going to sit and read this wall of text, but they're like, don't worry. And the dude from, what was it? He was from Gnome, right, Jill?
Yes. Yeah, he's the new CEO of, I am forgetting his name. I put that. Okay. But anyways, yes, the new CEO of GitHub is one of the co-founders of Gnome. Nat Friedman. Oh, Nat Friedman. So, but anyways, I really, Jim Zemlin brought up a really good point here that we have been talking about for the last month or so, since Microsoft has been very active in the open source community. And I really liked his comment. He states, Jim Zemlin of CEO of the Linux Foundation states that buying GitHub does not mean Microsoft has engaged in some sinister plot to own the more than 70 million open source projects on GitHub. Most of the important projects on GitHub are licensed under an open source license, which addresses intellectual property ownership. And as we have stated, again, as we have talked about in the last few months, our Penguin Army marches on, and Microsoft cannot change the GNU General Public License or the laws that protect it. So our operating system is protected.
We do have some comments coming up in the feedback section at the end of the show. Which brings up a good point that we'll get into then because I want to spoil show content.
Yeah.
Camps just got split, Pedro. I mean, it's going to be GitLab and GitHub. And I'm going to say this. I try to make it a point to watch everyone's coverage on this, basically just doing Google searches YouTube searches, same difference about people talking about. And there was one show and said, do you know why everyone left after Microsoft bought it? And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Maybe this person's going to tell me. He's like, yeah, all the Xbox simulators. That's the reason everyone.
Oh, yes.
They're going to shut them down.
And I was like, what?
I was like, what?
There were tens of thousands of Xbox simulation programs. Oh, okay. I don't think you nailed that one.
The gist of the article that the Linux Foundation put out is, yes, Microsoft is going to bring more money, and more money coming into open source development is good.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it is good. Open source development needs that little bit of funding. But, and even though Microsoft has been making a lot of money over the past few decades, it's still Microsoft we're talking about. They are the people who have...
At this point, man, Microsoft is like the government. There's not a single head to take it down. There's sections that operate independently, and there's divisions inside Microsoft that genuinely don't even know other divisions exist. So that's not in defense, because that could also be a negative thing, because you could still have somebody going after something. And, what about the whole Android licensing situation stuff?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is that. Who here loves System D?
Love is a strong word. I will tolerate it.
Hey, man. Okay. Dev1, that's the correct way to pronounce it, Pedro, or whoever messed with it's a fork Debian. Red Hat, they came out with the System D, and they're like, no. And a lot of people, just lost it over this. But this is basically 3264 PCs. Specialized ARM images are available for this. It works on Chromebooks, phones, mobiles, droids, and all that. But they're happy to release 2.0 stable. And some people are happy with it. Here's what I wanted to ask everyone is, do you think the hatred towards System D is enough to actively seek out and run something still using init scripts? Because, it's good that there are System D free distros out there. Support them if you care. That's the thing. 100%. No problem with that. Personally, I don't live in that fantasy world where init startup scripts were not a hot mess, because they were. I haven't had any problems with it running the Ubuntu, not by choice, but that's what we got to run on this production box. And, okay, this is not a hill I ever thought about dying on one way or the other. It's like, yeah, whatever.
It's not like mainstream hate. There's not a ton of people that hate System D, but the creator, Leonard Poettering, he hasn't exactly ingratiated himself to the Linux community in the past, mostly not due so much to the projects, but due to some things he said and some of his opinions, and some people really don't like him. So anything he creates ends up being adopted en masse. System D, Pulse Audio, is like the devil's omen, and some people just steer clear of that. I've learned to deal with System D. It's it is slowly turning into svchost.exe. If you ever had to manage a Windows system, it's turning into that. It's just ubiquitous. It hosts everything. But that may not be a bad thing until a better alternative comes around.
Well, I don't know, man. This kind of feels like you're going to get the D whether or not you want it.
Yeah.
You're definitely going to have the people still riding around on their fixies, but everyone else might modernize. Do you have opinions one way or the other on this, Jill?
Oh yes. I'm really happy actually. It's Dev1 is around. It's nice to have continued support of an unbloated init distro. And of course, Slackware is as well. And I was actually happy when Debian development split because of systemd, so that we continue both the core philosophy of Linux and that of a more unified one, and ultimately see what changes it would make, good or bad, to our favorite operating system. So I think it was good that we split it, to be able to test, which way worked and which way didn't, and see which one was better. And Debian being the Swiss Army knife of all the Linux distros, which supports every architecture, both modern and vintage, and it's important to keep it as lightweight and flexible as possible. And systemd is a little bloated, and it's better actually to run the non-systemd on older hardware. So that's definitely a thing.
There are people who really enjoy their old hardware.
Yes.
Called hoarders.
Well, it's also good for embedded systems, and say for NASA for their embedded systems. So there's a lot of use cases where you need, the smaller init. As
what about for
like
companies that actually launch rockets, like SpaceX? What do they use?
They're actually they use. Yeah, they have Debian and Space Shuttle Linux. So Space Shuttle is actually non-systemd. So right now, but that might change.
That's right. You heard it here. SpaceX doesn't like the D. Coming soon, something that has artists interested that also have some love for open source and Linux, and that's Wacom.
Yes, this is an awesome, wonderful article, and Red Hat does it again, and they just released native Wacom firmware update support in Linux via a GUI and or terminal, and it is really, really wonderful. We talked about this last week with Linux support of the large screen Dell Canvas and Totem, and this is huge. It helps further proving that Linux adoption in the art, animation, and gaming industries is growing by leaps and bounds, and this proves it. Having Wacom support, I never thought this would happen in 20 years using Wacom tablets. So and my students use them at my work, and it's really awesome. Red Hat has done it again. Yeah. And the interesting thing, and I was thinking about a little bit, is especially a lot of the art and animation packages are RPM based. So it would be natural that Red Hat would do the drivers first for these. Like Maya is RPM based, and Modo and some of the other animation.
Yeah, basically prosumer and professional grade stuff is targeted towards CentOS because, exactly. And hey, the movie industry runs on Linux. CentOS. Right. There you go. Good shot on that. So I know there was some basic support for Wacom. Is this going to give us everything, or that?
Well, it's going to give us firmware updates, which admittedly were a bit lacking if you wanted to upgrade your firmware on your Wacom tablet, whichever one you got. And they are rather everywhere if you're surrounded by people who like to do digital art. Every single one of them has a Wacom tablet, smaller one, bigger one, they all have them. And yeah, those firmware updates, they help a lot. So it's good to see FWUPD is moving on from the whole System 76 debacle a couple of weeks back, and they're actually doing something useful and providing much needed support for firmware upgrades to the Wacom tablets.
100%. I mean, it's good to see. We were talking last week about the Canvas.
This one, the firmware on this controller was updated with FWUPD. So, yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
Hipster pixel graphics can now be made from the console, Joe.
Yes. This is a pixel art editor inside the terminal, written in Bash with no mouse required. You use your arrow keys on the keyboard to draw, like we used to do back in the ANSI art days of bulletin board systems. So this made me very happy, because I used to create artwork this way on the BBSs and early animation. Even before we were using mice, I used to use the arrow keys and WASD. And it's really neat because it'll allow up to 256 colors, and the brushes are actually characters on the keyboard. So that's actually really fun. And PNG support is not available yet, but it will be coming. But all you have to do is save the file in the program and use cat in terminal to view it. So that was an ingenious way to do that. I love it. I love the cat
I'm digging
command.
this, that it's like, hey, fast. This is 150 lines of pure bash. That's a selling point somehow.
Yes.
is this just something to play around with, or is this practical in any way?
Well, it would be good if you're launching a new BBS. Make some ANSI art. Or doing actually, it's really good for doing icons. I made a little penguin picture with it. I had fun with it.
Okay. You'd think in
Yeah.
2018 they'd at least have some mouse input. Which they don't.
Yeah,
I
yes.
tried.
Yes.
Oh, are you helpless when somebody removes your gerbil from you? Like,
No, not necessarily. But, it's 2018, current year argument. So, yeah.
Hey, man, listen,
Yeah.
I know keyboard shortcuts because I'm lazy.
Oh, yeah. I learned how to draw on the computer before we had mice and before we had Wacom tablets.
All right. Coming up next, a fun little life hack I ran across. This is more about a way to do this with Linux. And, you say you get an unlimited plan and like, hey, it's completely unlimited. Use as much as you want. Oh, you use too much. So we're going to have to throttle you down to like 0.8 megabits and something like that. But this is a handy little life hack from a fellow Linux human. This is from R-Linux on the Reddits. Basically, you can set up an SSH server in Termux and use it as a SOX proxy. I mean, it works. And what it does is it's going to trick your mobile into thinking this is data coming from an app installed on it versus, your standard HTTPS traffic. So, the hotspot app's like, oh, this is an app, whatever. And it's just going to give you your full data bandwidth. Now, another hack, I was reading through this, and that you can do at home for fun and profit. I mean, to experiment with. We're not endorsing doing any of this because I don't know where this falls in like some gray area, is if you have like throttling issues on mobile networks, like 4G deployments for internet is not an uncommon thing in rural areas.
Yeah.
But simply by increasing your TTLs on the PC, you can get around most of them. I'm looking at you, AT&T, and what is the other one? There's another stupid cheap one that offers unlimited, but you can set it to like a value of 64 or something like that. And no more throttling. It's magic, which is horrible that you would ever have to hack your way into getting what you're paying for. Question mark? I don't know.
Yeah. So, since we haven't really talked about Microsoft at all.
Wait a minute. Look at you. No, this is our new segment, Pedro. Look, I made a graphic just for this.
Aww, but then we've already done a Microsoft segment.
That wasn't a Microsoft segment.
No.
This is an official one.
Right.
And this one, it starts off this week with the wine packs. And what are wine packs? Well, they're flat packs designed to run wine applications. So you may remember a while back, we talked about a story of a certain flat pack making it to a certain website that may or may not deal in pirated games.
What Pedro's trying to say is there's some pirated Linux games in Flatpak on Pirate Bay.
Well, a wine game in a flat pack that was designed to run on Linux. And I'm really glad to see that something good came out of it, because here we go. We have wine packs, which it integrates, according to them, it integrates with your desktop. So if you have it installed and you search for, say, Path of Exile, like they use in the example, it will download it and will set up the flat pack, which is great for those free-to-play MMOs and whatnots. We'll just set them up and you're good to go. It's a flat pack, so you know it's probably most likely going to run reliably unless you have some serious issues with your box.
What this does is it makes it, I mean, we're not talking about games. You can just use games as a good example, or desktop applications, because wine is a moving target. That is why we're very much against any developers like, hey guys, would targeting wine, just making a wine version of the game? Like, don't. You do not want to support that. No. But this takes care of all that, right, Pedro? I mean,
It does, because it includes its own version of wine, and it's self-contained. So that will work reliably as long as that particular wine version runs in whatever operating system you're running that Flatpak off of. It will still work. So, yeah.
So you don't have to worry about different wine bottles or anything set up like that. It's either in or it's out. You want to install it, boom, there's the thing.
It's either in the Flatpak or it's not, and it doesn't work.
Right on. What do you think, Jill?
Yeah, well, it's nice to have them self-contained, but all the games that are already available as wine packs, which is Overwatch, WoW, League of Legends, World of Tanks, and as Pedro mentioned, Path of Exile, you can already use our very own Strider, Matthew Commandon's Lutris application to install these. Install these at lutris.net. And of course, Lutris is the open gaming platform for Linux that will run all the things.
I like the idea of it being a platform, because I don't know what that is, but it sounds hot. This might be something Lutris could integrate.
That's exactly,
Because, I mean, you think of it like, I think of Lutris as the Borg. It's like, you will all be assimilated.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful
If Strider had enough
thing.
free time during the day, it would be.
So real quick, Microsoft kind of backed off on this. Gnome beat Microsoft. See, you can't find a way to make that negative against Gnome, Pedro, with your lust for that. You could try. Get Virtual File System to get a new name. Redmond asked for your help to rename its version of GVFS. And I'm just going to say this. If it's not Get Virtual File, Get Virtual File Face, the internet's going to know it's been lied to, Microsoft. So don't
get it, but get face. There.
Yes.
That's racist, man. Come on. I didn't really want to go into this. I just thought this was fun. And it's like good on Redmond to avoid that confusion.
Yeah. Again, especially since the CEO of GitHub, Nat Friedman, is the co-founder of Gnome. We shouldn't get those confused.
Yeah, and this is goodwill, though, Microsoft. Redmond, this is goodwill going. Okay, let's not be smitey about this.
We just bought GitHub. Let's give him a little bit of something. Just keep him happy. Well, slightly less peed off at us.
So that's a love and embrace from Microsoft. So let's make fun of him a little bit.
Yeah.
yes, let's. So someone from what's his name? Pre-ining? Well, the blog preining.info has a little bit of an article posted by, there we go, Norbert Pre-ining, and he wrote, it's like, okay, so I have this Microsoft OpenR deb file that Microsoft created, and he says that Microsoft loves Linux, but not Debian. And one of the things that it does, like Venn is highlighting there, is that Debian is just not checking to see which version you're actually trying to install and if it's deleting a previous version of that same package. No, it just deletes the previous version of R if you happen to have it installed, whatever the case may be. So it's like that. There are many other examples. He actually has a pretty good post just to show you with all the code. And the other thing is, I think personally to me, this is the most egregious one. They remove bash, they remove sh, and they symlink it against bash. What?
Don't worry about it. Strider just pointed out that they fixed that weapons grade level of stupidity.
Yes.
So I say good on that, but that danger, Will Robinson, when you're putting that business together. But I don't know. I mean, you want to have some fun, kind of like, stupid Microsoft. But there has to be at least one half of 1%. You're like, well, at least they're trying. I mean,
know.
yes, it's a colossal cock up, but an effort was made. You know, don't blame on what maliciousness, what can easily be explained by stupidity.
Yeah, no, Hanlon's razor does very much apply in this case. It's just, to me, Microsoft cocking up a packaging system is nothing new. We've all seen what happened when Microsoft attempted to do a centralized store for Windows 8. Remember that? Yeah, that didn't go so well. And they pushed it again with Windows 10. How many games are on the Windows Store? Yeah, not a whole lot, are they?
Well, you can finish that sentence with now versus will there be in the future? Because
maybe they'll get it right in the future.
Oh, they're going to honestly. Everybody's trying to lock it in, man. So, yeah, I think that's going to help. I mean, Microsoft really wants everything. Now, here's a thought experiment for people who have to support Windows users, and we're talking about friends and family, aunts and uncles, grandparents. Okay, Pedro, you have a finger. Good.
Yeah, no, I support people on Windows. That's my job.
Here's the thing. I mean, having a locked-in app store, because there is a version of Windows. What is it, like Windows Short Bus Edition?
That they already canceled? Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't a bad idea. That was almost a grandma or grandpa-proof, not Linux, Windows, because you got to get everything from the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not against that for a certain type of person. It's, the
kind of person who uses iPhones. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It's got a store. That's where you get your software. There, done.
Yeah.
Keeps them safe, man. Keeps them safe. Hey, we need to thank some people, Pedro, because you know what? Making this show, unfortunately, cost like a little more than Trividi.
Yeah, a little more, yes. So thank you all very, very much. Your continued support, those people who have already clicked to linuxgamecast.com and the support button, they have found many different ways to support us. There's Amazon affiliate links, Newegg affiliate links. There's an Amazon wish list if you'd like to help Venn with the costs for the prototype studio.
You can help hack things, man. You can donate some much needed hardware. We want to thank everybody shopping through our affiliate links, especially the Amazon. You guys are blowing that up in the Humble stuff. Almost $200 now we've raised for charity through that. You guys have.
Awesome.
We're helping charity. You guys are helping charity. That's insane.
No, well, I mean, this show, a Saturday should be like, wait, what? Anyway,
but
we need to thank
our very own special brand of crazy are the lovely, lovely Patreons. We have 117 of them, giving us 256 wet, stinky caches a week.
Making it possible.
Yeah, thank you all very, very much. And we have three new Patreons to thank this week. Bithir, Yosef B, and Wintercell. Welcome one, welcome all. Very, very much.
Awesome.
Yosef and Wintercell. You get some stuff if you're a patron. If you want to kick us in like that, we're asking like 4 quarters a week if you could swing it. We do have some new things that we've thrown in. We don't put stuff that exists behind paywalls. Some people do that. We're just adding some more stuff. A couple extra bonuses. LGC minus LGC is our live stream minus the show. So you get 2 hours of us doing improv comedy ? You get access to our pre super shows and some video versions of that, and the regular. I mean, you have your own RSS feed, so that's just for you. You can throw it in if you want a lot of us. The pre super shows is our production meeting every week, where we do talk occasionally about what's going on in the show, but mostly we discuss movies and TV shows and pretend to be professional right before the end. But thanks everyone for making that possible. You do get access to the lounge, our little hidden area. I'll show everyone. It's our Discord. It's kind of brilliant. You can come hang out in there. It's a really, really chill place and has some very interesting parallel conversations going on sometimes.
Yes.
Once everyone. It's, I think, a good example of people, kind of ribbing each other very, very politely, almost to a confusing way. So... Thanks again, everyone. Everyone's awesome for doing that.
Yay, chat realm.
Let's get into one little slice of pie before we get into the feedback.
Yeah.
And this one's all Jill. Jill, tell us about it.
Yes. Yeah. This is awesome. This is a fully open source Raspberry Pi synthesizer called Xanthian. And it's an open platform for sound synthesis. And the company has lots of kits that you can buy that range from 250 pounds and up, and include all the parts you need to build the synthesizer, the case, the Raspberry Pi, the sound card, and all the knobs and bips and bobs. And one of the things about this that I was really thought was really, really cool is that it uses MIDI over IP using a web interface. So if you want to communicate with other synthesizers, you have that ability to do so. And it uses jack audio, which is really awesome. And it uses a lot of our favorite Linux music apps like Xenad, SubFX, Fluid Synth, Dext, Noise, and Noisemaker. And these apps, you know, were sometimes a little buggy and crashy back in the day, but they've really, really come a long way. And so much so that now it's wonderful seeing them being used professionally in this arena, and it will help the much needed adoption of Linux in the music industry, because that's an area that we haven't really penetrated yet.
It is a thing.
Yeah.
It looks neat. It looks like a very solid piece of kit to put together. It's not the cheapest thing in the world if you're going to be parting it out. But as I've learned, setting our nightmare solution up, even with my infinite cheapness and buying stuff used and secondhand and all that, it's still pricey. I like that. The IP, MIDI over IP, that's an interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's one way to get around the latency, because it's just.
Yeah.
Well,
so, yeah.
And being able to do multi-track with the synthesizers and create a modular, system. So this is actually so inexpensive. I mean, most synthesizers are in the thousands. So this is a big deal.
Then you got hipsters. they want like Korgs and stuff like from the old times. They don't want anything digital. Jack's interesting to set up. I'll tell you one thing. If you're thinking about doing anything with audio on Jack, take it from your friendly old man, Venn. Don't do it unless you have a dedicated box. Yeah. That's all it's going to be doing, because Jack is a sketchy, finicky, don't look at it wrong system. It's perfectly usable, but you really want dedicated hardware for that with a low latency kernel. Yeah. And this entire story, that video, is better to be watched if you're humming Flock of Seagulls. So that kind of works out. Pedro, we got a little bit of feedback coming up next.
Yes, we do. And if you too have some feedback for us, maybe we said something you don't agree with, maybe we said something you agree with, but you'd like to add some more, well, by all means, linuxgamecast.com, contact button, make sure to pick LWDW.
I refuse to believe anybody agrees with us.
Not too long ago, I would have agreed with you, but considering
I think what you're witnessing is, you know how you have like that a great uncle or grandparent that you just agree with just to get it over with. You're like, yeah, 100%.
Everyone has that particular family member. I know I do. But maybe we are that particular family member for you, and you'd like to educate us in the only way you can, by screaming at us over the internet. So go to linuxgamecast.com, hit the contact button, LWDW, just fill out the form. It's really easy, and we will be more than happy to answer your question right here, right now, or to take on board your feedback, or, maybe call you out on it because reasons.
Coming up first this week from Rando. That's not a rando. This is the rando, the first rando on the internet, ARPANET, going way back in the day, making backups before Ubuntu upgrades. We were talking about this last week. I pulled the trigger on putting our production box on 1804. Writes in and says, I've used Deja Dupe. It's built in, and have been happy restoring from this since Ubuntu 12.04. Solid advice to back up before any major changes. Thanks for the show. And yeah, man, I looked into it. It's like, Deja Dupe, what's that? And I was like, oh, all right. That's kind of neat. Everyone use that because it even supports offsite. The kids call it cloud backup. Or use what it, just have something. I mean, listen, I rsync.
Yeah.
rsync is just reliable. You know what to expect from it. But yeah, Deja Dupe, the one time I felt compelled to try it, because I didn't actually need to do it. It's just, okay, I want to see if it works, and if the restore is actually functional. It is. It's actually really nice to see.
That's pretty cool. And hey, let us know. Like, send us some information. Use that contact form if you have like a Rube Goldberg backup solution that works. Those are always fascinating to read about. And trust me, I've had some in my time. I mean, the fact that I have incremental rsync backups, like what have you done? You know, like 20 years ago, I came up and smacked myself. And that's too much adulting for you, sir. And
Yes.
Walked off. Joe.
Yeah, I make 3 backups of everything. It's what I teach my students. You have to have 3 backups of everything. Have 1 cloud-based and 2 local, whether it be on flash drive or CDs or disk or
64 gigabyte flash drive.
Yeah,
it's your friend.
Because inevitably you will lose something and need that backup. And sometimes the backup of the backup isn't just good enough. So you need the 3rd backup.
And always have a bootable USB stick with Linux on it. Hanging on your keychain.
Always.
Listen to me. Put it on your keychain. And you're going to like, man, I can't find it. My one box is down. I can't do any. Wait a minute. That's right. I was told to put it on the keychain. And it's still going to be on the keychain unless I move at your house because I'm going to move it. Okay. What do we got next, Jill? Ozzy?
Oh, yeah. So this is Ozzy. If Microsoft really cared about open standards, they would have opened the Microsoft document formats. I deal with that hell every single day. Yes, I agree. But I don't know if Microsoft will ever open it up because, well, they support Open Office document format now. So, well, mostly
they begrudgingly support it. You can tell that very begrudgingly because the moment you pick like the open document format, it says, but this advanced functionality that we can only get with the XML, it won't work.
I think it's very accurate to say Microsoft only plays nice in areas that it doesn't have people locked in. If it's got
exactly.
Office is a place where it's like, you know what, we're still number 1.
Yeah,
Microsoft
they're making money off
rules.
their
dying of fire. We're not going to open that up.
Yeah,
come on. And that's some things that needs to change. Like, I wouldn't give Microsoft a complete 100% pass, but if you would give me like 4X version of Skype before Microsoft bought it, so don't come in and like, but it's got our secret sauce. Man, you can keep whatever secret sauce you put in recent versions of Skype because
just give us the 4.0 sauce.
Just give us the client server code for that and completely open up the Silk codec. And then we'll be talking. Open up the doc format complete or an Excel because those are nightmares to deal with. Not for your basic stuff because I know somebody said at home, I've never had a problem. Feed it some complex Excel with some macros in it and watch it die in a fire.
Spreadsheet, like a 5-page long spreadsheet with interconnected functions and macros. That's just it's fun to watch. OpenOffice spreadsheet just. LibreOffice spreadsheet. Just
Star Office, man, you heathen.
IBM Lotus Symphony Office.
Word Perfect. I think Word Perfect came on Red Hat disk, didn't it?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, some RPMs
it did, and Corel. It was Corel Word Perfect.
Yeah,
yeah.
It's like Red Hat 5 and after somewhere. And it was on the extras. Anyway, we're done being old. That's going to do it for this week. Thanks everyone for showing up, and we'll see you next week because we got to roll some credits and thank some people.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Look, I'm prepared. Boom.
Yay!
All the lovely people.
Hey man, that was a fun show. We got in and out under 50 minutes. Pedro does have some clicking in your audio chain. I noticed that on the live stream yesterday, so that's on your end.
All right.
Oh.
Clicking.
Yeah, it's
a little bit.
Yep, fix it.
Okay, I'll have to figure out where it's coming from then.
You know, I mean, you could go outside and pet the grass and see if that works. But yeah, I would go your route. You sound like you have the better route there.
Yeah.
See, I call this one hard mode.
Mark. Good job, man.
What's the name of that one? Is FU Sweater.
Bye, chat room.
See you next week.
Bye, chat room.